Hello, my name is Jim Bowman, and I'm the president of the Life team here at Advisors Excel. And I'm really excited to share this tool we've built called Giving Your Money Purpose. This is designed after actually years of experience of trying to understand how to incorporate this amazing asset class called life insurance into your sales process. It's designed to make it a simple conversation for both you as well as for your client to understand where the values and benefit life insurance can come in without trying to sell life insurance. And you're going to see how simple this conversation is. And we've heard some rave results from our advisors who are using this in their practice today. Now, when you hear this, think about how you want to put this to work. We actually have some advisors that are leading with this in their marketing to bring clients on board. But I think more of our advisors are going to use it in that third appointment or in that strategy session, or as you may call your annual review. It will fit in any one of those components based on your sales process. But folks, I'm going to tell you, it's so simple and it's easy to communicate to your clients what you're trying to do. Hence the name, Giving Your Money Purpose. So I'm going to take you through it just at 30,000 feet from myself, and then I'm going to take you through two examples with clients and using the tool. Okay, so let's just start. First and foremost, your clients, 90% of them hire you to develop an income plan. What's the income plan for their years in retirement? That's your number one job. And so we honor that, we respect that, and however you do that, you do that. We're not trying to change anything, but it's all about the income plan. And that income plan, as you know, depends on their investable assets, qualified, non-qualified assets, what their Social Security funds are, and then any other pension or passive income. So we're going to talk through that very simply, very high level. And once we come up with a simple number, then the number two concern of seniors is what do we do to protect the income plan, right? So obviously we want emergency funds in that protect the income plan bucket. But really the number two concern of seniors is how are they going to cover their long-term care medical expenses? And so we're going to address that. Now, for you, we're not going to address it and try to solve the problem and pick a product at that point in time. We may use a hybrid long-term care product. We may use an annuity with long-term care benefits. We may use a life insurance contract with chronic illness. That's going to be after the fact. What we're doing is just assessing what the client wants their money to do for them and actually get a budget for it, which is going to be pretty cool. We're also in that part of protect the income, we want to understand what life insurance they have in force already. Because some of the older contracts do not have living benefits like the newer ones. So it may be a tremendous opportunity to reposition an old contract, 1035 that into a new contract that has those living benefits, those chronic illness benefits, along with the death benefit. Great, but again, a simple conversation, non-threatening on both the long-term care and the current life insurance in force. And then for those clients who have money up after that, which you will have a number of them, we call that forever money. That's money they're never going to spend and it's going to go on forever. But where does it go? Who do they want it to go to? If you don't plan, if it's qualified money, it's going to go heavily to the Internal Revenue Service in the form of taxes on qualified money. Where they really want it to go is their beneficiaries. But how much do they want to get? Who do they want to get it to? Do we need a trust? Very good planning conversations, estate tax planning conversations that you simply move into without it being threatening. And again, right there, life insurance is certainly going to be a product that you want to consider because of the value and leverage it provides, in addition to the tax efficiency it provides in wealth transfer. Really, really cool. And then in that point, if you want to do charitable planning, that's awesome, but you have to do the planning. It just doesn't happen without a plan. So folks, that's a 30,000 foot view of giving your money purpose. Now let's talk about two scenarios. One that's going to have no forever funds, and the other one's going to, because you're going to have both. And I want you to listen to how I would talk to a client about this. All right? Let's go. As I said, I wanted to take you through two examples. We're going to do one where the client has investable assets of $750,000. And in this tool, you'll be able to just put that number in. We also want to understand, what are their monthly expenses. And for these clients, we're going to assume it's $6,000. Okay, so we're going to put that right in the tool. And you'll be having this discussion with the clients, saying, okay, how much are your monthly expenses? What do we expect from Social Security? And they told me $4,500 a month between the two of them. I also asked, do you have any other income from pensions or passive income from dividends or real estate? And this couple said they did not have any. So we're just going to put a 0 in there. And then we're going to talk about distribution rate. What's the distribution rate of the assets that we want to pull out for income? And most offices, and you probably are the same way, are using 4%. When we do that calculation, you'll see in the income funds that'll say, hey, to achieve the difference, that $1,500 a month for the life of the two of them, we have to put $450,000 aside. Now that could be in any investable asset you choose, whether it's if you've got securities license or 65, you can use AUM, or you can use insurance products. You could use some tax-free life insurance. However you normally do the planning, that's what you're going to use that $450,000. We're not trying to cover that at the moment. We're just saying here's what we have to set aside. Now you'll see the annual income needed $72,000, Social Security's $54,000, and we have that $18,000 shortfall. And that's where the $450,000 will come in and provide that $1,500. Now the next segment is also really important, but one that a lot of people don't cover. And that's why it makes it such a simple conversation for the client. So I would say to the couple, say, okay, now that we've got the income funds set up, we've got, looks like $300,000 remaining. Now we can put more towards the income if you feel you need more income, and we could easily make that adjustment. So let's just add, let's make our expenses $7,000, and what's that do? So it's going to use the whole amount, and that may not be acceptable, but that's how easy this tool is. So let's go back to the $6,000. So it needs $450,000, and again, that's a simple calculation. So now let's talk about the protection funds. So we've got $300,000. Depending on what your firm, I would say our firm really recommends that we have 6 months liquid. So in this case, forget the Social Security, I'm going to use the expenses. So I want to put $36,000 in here that I want to make sure is liquid for our clients. Now, I really want to get into a conversation about long-term care. What are their feelings about it? How are they planning to take care of it? Have they had any impact with long-term care in their immediate family? And I'd venture to guess 9 out of 10 are going to have some real emotional impact from family members. And I want to find out from them, what's that impact from them? How do they plan on handling it? And do we want to set aside any funds for that? I may talk about the different insurance products out there, but I may not. I may just want to find a budget. And let's just assume in this case, they said, yes, we definitely want to plan for some long-term care medical expenses, and we'd like to set aside out of the $264,000 left, we want to put $100,000 each in there. So we'll put $200,000 in there. And now we have a protection fund, so we're really going to put $236,000 total in here now that we've had the conversation. So you'll see how it calculates this across for the clients to see and for you to have the conversation. Now, in the protection funds, I'm not done. Once I had the long-term care conversation, I'm going to talk about what they currently have in life insurance. And I will ask them, do they have any? And they'll say, yes, just our group term. We used to have term insurance when we had the kids, but we didn't need it anymore, so we dropped it. That's fine. I'm going to put a 0 in there. I'm not going to try to sell them life insurance at this point in time. That's not the purpose of the discussion. If they have life insurance, and the next example I'll show you, I'll talk about that discussion. So right now we've got $450 aside for the income. We've got $236,000 to protect the income plan. And again, that long-term care event, depending on where you are located, and I would know those numbers. I would know what the local facility from an assisted facility cost. Is it $6,000 a month? Is it $9,000 a month? That's a huge impact on the income plan. And this is a simple place to have that conversation. Again, you're not selling anything here. What you're doing is developing the game plan on how to deal with these real life issues. And as I said before, and it actually is from the American Society of CPAs, the number 2 concern that CPAs uncover from their clients who are about to retire is how are they handling long-term care medical expenses. So in this scenario, that's a good plan. We've covered their monthly expenses. We've got money to protect the income funds. And now in that long-term care, $200,000, that's where actually you can reach out to your long-term care team, to your life team. We'll find products to help you in that situation, whether it's a hybrid product, whether it's life insurance with a chronic illness rider, or annuities with a strong emphasis in long-term care. We will help you there. You don't try to solve it there. Let your team design a case for it. And then we'll get to the forever funds, and in this situation, there's $64,000. We assume here that it's qualified money, so the family gets the $41,000, the IRS gets $22,400. Again, that could be a safety net. If you manage money, you could manage that. It could sit in a bank account, whatever you and the client decide is best for those funds. Okay? Pretty simple, easy conversation. Now, let's change the game to a different client. All right, I'm gonna just clean this all out. Okay, so we just went through a client that had $750,000 of investable assets. Now let's change the game, and let's see how this works with a client who's more of a higher net worth client. And let's say they have, $3 million in investable assets. Okay, so we're going to plug that in, and then we're just going to have the conversation. Okay, so $3 million investable assets, that's fantastic. Now, what are your monthly expenses? And they said it's basically $10,000 a month that they spend. Okay, now let's figure, what do we estimate Social Security to be? And they came back between the two of them. They think it'll be about $6,000 a month. Now, is there any ordinary income, any pensions, passive income, other income coming in? And they said yes. Actually, we get about $3,000 a month from some real estate that they own. So that's great. So we get that. And now we talk about the distribution rate. And as I said before, typically most offices are using a 4% distribution rate. We plug that in, and it comes out that to achieve their goal of $10,000 a month based on their Social Security and other income, they need to set aside $300,000 at a 4% distribution rate. That's fantastic. I might have the conversation and say, hey, do we want to give ourselves a little raise? Do we want to have a little cushion there? And let's say they say, sure, yeah, that sounds great. Let's put $12,000 in there. Let's do $12,000 a month. That bumps it up to $900,000 that we need to set aside to put in some type of guaranteed instrument that will provide those funds if they want it guaranteed. Now let's move over to the next conversation. So now what can go wrong with this plan? Well, we want to have some emergency funds, and as I said, our firm recommends 6 months of those monthly expenses. So we want to put in $72,000 that we want to put aside for emergency funds. Now let's talk about what else can really impact the plan, and that's long-term care medical expenses. Have you ever had any, or do you have any ongoing issues with your parents or friends or family members where you know they're dealing with assisted living, home health care? You know, how do you want to deal with that with your situation between yourselves and with your children? And as I said, this could be a very good conversation as to what do they want, what are their wishes. And again, what's the purpose of their money? Well, I think they're going to want to have some expert care or people brought in versus them taking care of each other. And at this point in time, we'll talk about, okay, in this community, you know, it's basically $8,000 a month. And if we have to do that for both of you, that's $16,000 a month. Where's that money going to come from? Well, right now it's going to come from the income funds. Well, geez, that's more than the monthly expense right now. And that's real, folks. So now we're going to say, hey, what if we set money aside, not sure where it's going to go, but how much would you want to set aside of the remaining, $2.1 million? And we'll talk about a number and everything else. And let's just say they decide that, it's pretty smart to put $500,000 away just to make sure that we get, we have the proper coverage. Now, this also, for each of you, this insulates their other assets from being exposed to long-term care medical expense. So we're going to put aside, and I put the 500, but here in the protection funds, it's really $572,000, okay? Now we're going to get into life insurance discussion. And because he owned his own business, everything else, he has $1 million of coverage of the policy that's been in force for 20 years. So we're going to put $1 million down here. And we're going to talk a little bit about the difference of some of these policies today versus 20 years ago. And we're going to talk about 20 years ago, this was probably just a pure expense. You wanted to make sure, God forbid, something happened to you, that you had the income to protect the family so they didn't change their quality of life. Well, do you really need that $1 million today? Maybe yes, maybe no. But we're going to talk about what's that for. Well, now it's really more of a legacy play in their minds, and that's awesome. But we're going to talk about, we've allocated $500,000 to long-term care. What if we turned, at least for him, that $1 million, we reposition that for long-term care expenses? And we maybe did a 1035 exchange. Maybe there's other contracts out there that cover chronic illness rider, so we don't have to allocate as much for long-term care in that $500,000. Something to explore. It's not anything we can guarantee because we're going to have to go through underwriting, but it's a great, simple conversation right there to have about options. And what we want to do is discuss options. And same with the long-term care. We got $500,000. Maybe we can insure that and offload some of that risk from them self-insuring it to moving over to an insurance company. Again, another underwriting situation, but we're having a non-threatening conversation about what is their money working for, how is it working for them, and how are we leveraging it, okay? So now let's go over to, we put $572,000, we've got $1 million, we've got a couple of things to do from a case design position there, but now let's get over to the forever funds. As you see, we got $1.5 million in forever funds. This is a fun conversation to say, okay, and in this, we're showing that it's qualified money, so you're going to see what goes to the family and what goes to the Internal Revenue Services. And again, these are all approximate numbers, whether using Retirement Analyzer or Stonewood software, you can drill down and get even more specific. But all we want to do is set the stage. We're setting the stage. And again, out of this forever funds, I may say, listen, we can move more over and even get more monthly expense. We can do this, and where you can take $100,000 and take the grandchildren and everybody to Disney World. Like, you have permission to go spend this money. One of our advisors, Doug Moe, that's how he's saying it to his high net worth clients. You have permission, go spend this money, enjoy it with your family. But also, let's talk about what you want to have happen with that. Is this a position where we want to leverage it and turn 1.5 into 3 million because we have 3 kids and we want to leave $1 million each? Well, geez, that's a legacy play, and that's a beautiful position for life insurance, whether it's individual or a second to die, which basically pays at the second death between the husband and wife. Also, that money we could leverage it to pay the taxes. There is a lot of great discussion and real planning that could be done once you understand, once the clients understand where this is and what this money is, and then what did they want? What's the purpose of this money? They've worked their tails off for 30, 40 years to generate this. Now, what do they want to have happen with those funds? And also right here, you'll see, we broke it out by qualified money, but there's charitable giving. Right now, there's nothing there. This is also a good discussion to find out, have they been giving to their church? Are there certain charities that they are fond of that they want to give more? And this is where you start to do some of that planning too. And when you get to that situation, whether it's our high net worth team, our life team, we can definitely help in those conversations. So really right now, I just went through that, and I have, from a life insurance perspective, here's the opportunities that I see. I'm going to do some long-term care case design, whether it's hybrid or life insurance with long-term care riders. We're going to do a life insurance review on $1 million policy. At this point, the wife may decide she wants to have some, because a lot of times that happens. And then I've got $1.5 million over here of qualified money. What if I just took $100,000 a year out of that, if it's qualified, pay the taxes, and I had $70,000 left roughly, and I took $350,000, what could I turn that into from a legacy play? I've got the money there. I have the ability to show the client that they're going to be fine. So folks, this is a pretty cool, simple tool to have the conversation. So thank you for watching, taking the time, and investing into giving your money purpose. As you heard in that, it's all a simple conversation, no complex terms, nothing that's going to confuse the client or get your advisors confused. It's just a simple conversation where we're going to highlight places in the Giving Your Money Purpose tool where life insurance can be used. You don't even have to talk about it. It's in the solution part, which would be the next meeting. Here's how we're going to accomplish this. Please, please think through this. I think this is a huge opportunity and tool that can help you elevate the value you bring to your clients, giving them the opportunity to solve some problems that may be in their mind, whether it's the long-term care problem or how do they transfer wealth. Both of them are great opportunities, but they don't have to be hard conversations. So please, think about this. Talk to your life team. Talk to your marketers, your VPs. We have these conversations every day with advisors, and it is amazing the simplicity and yet the success that they're having. I'm Jim Bowman. I thank you very much for your time, and good luck to you. Be well.